45 years, the San Onofre nuclear plant is shutting down for good. Thanks for joining us on this Friday midday. I'm Bill Griffith.
And I'm Kaushal Patel. Our 10 News team has been on top of this story ever since it broke.
Thank you. What a day this is. I can't describe the emotions and the relief to know that we're past this huge hurdle. We don't have to worry about 8 million people being exposed to a meltdown because of experimenting with a broken reactor.
I think our next goal is there's an immediate concern about the waste on site. A thimbleful of plutonium that could be spread across the population size of Sacramento, 70,000 people, and everyone could get deadly cases of cancer. So when you think about a thimbleful compared to a ton, and then you think you have 1,400 tons, that's just mind-boggling.
I started researching the nuclear waste, and I found out we have a major problem here at San Onofre and actually in the whole country. The industry now uses what's called high burn-up fuel. This is fuel that is allowed to burn longer in the reactor.
My understanding is that the high burn-up fuel could take up to 40 years to cool before it can be transported. But the containers that are containing the radiation are only guaranteed for 20 years.
It's over twice as radioactive and over twice as thermally hot as lower burn-up fuel.
We have to endure the fuel being there for twice the duration, minimum twice the duration of the integrity of the canisters, and possibly 100 years. We've heard early on in the conversation it could be 200 years or indefinitely.
You'd ask yourself, why on earth would you want to create this kind of waste material? And to make it worse, there's no way that science knows to neutralize it or to render it harmless.
So even though San Onofre is shut down and the risk of a meltdown is markedly reduced, there is still continuing risk at the site.
The reason that radioactive waste is so dangerous is because it's immensely concentrated. We produced immense quantities, and it's undoubtedly in so much volume, of this horribly toxic material that is incredibly long-lived without having any idea how to dispose of it. And we kept kicking that can down the road because, in fact, there is no safe way of disposing of it.
Let's be honest, we do not have a solution. In the absence of a solution, we cannot afford to abandon this material. It's betrayal of future generations. We have to look after it.
We're talking about, if it's 500,000 years, we're talking about 10,000 generations that can be made sick. Cancers, leukemias, genetic effects, heart disease, all the things that come with radiation.
In most cases, you would think that if you were storing material for safety purposes, and if you managed to have 99.99% perfection in terms of containing that much and only allowing, let's say, 1,000th of a percentage point of the material to escape. Sorry. In the case of nuclear waste, that's a disaster. So you have to have a level of perfection and essentially for eternity, because this stuff remains very highly dangerous for more than 10 million years.
Most countries use thick wall casts that are 10 to over 19 inches thick. They can be inspected inside and out. They have multiple redundancies. They are designed for transport and storage without the use of any additional container. Right now, Southern California Edison is planning to buy this Holtec underground system. This is a experimental system. It's never been used anywhere in the world. The canisters they want to put them in are not safe. The canisters at San Onofre are only 5/8 of an inch thick, and they want to put them halfway under the ground in holes.
Part of that's a good idea, I should say, because we have long been concerned that if you have a spent fuel cask visible above ground, they could provide a target for a terrorist who might have line of sight ability to hit them with a rocket-propelled grenade launcher or something like that. But there are downsides also to having these below grade. And in particular, they're proposing to do this fairly close to the ocean.
Well, it's ridiculous because you do not want moisture and you do not want corrosive particles sitting up against stainless steel. It will accelerate the corrosion and cracking process. And with even a microscopic through-wall crack, a crack that penetrates this thin wall, millions of curies of radiation will be released into the environment. We need to demand thick-wall, transportable storage casks that don't crack, and we need public access to real-time radiation monitoring, which we don't have.
It's hard to imagine a worse choice for interim, quote, dry storage than the current site. It's very close to the ocean, and it will be stored a few inches above water. The risk of terrorist attack at the approved site is much greater than leaving the waste in the current spent fuel pool. So when you make a decision, you should make a decision that makes things better as opposed to worse.
Today, we are creating waste sites that should something happen, it will leave portions of this country uninhabitable for not if hundreds, but tens of thousands of years. And if the worst should happen, that there be an explosion, maybe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands could lose their lives.
A serious near-miss accident at the San Onofre nuclear power plant could have been catastrophic.
Southern California Edison, the operator of San Onofre, says a steel canister filled with hot nuclear waste was almost dropped from nearly 2 stories in the air.
If the canister drops and bounces against the guide ring on the way down, it's going to do some gouging to the cylinder. This will basically ruin the effectiveness of the stainless steel in the areas where the gouging will occur, and that will be places where you can have major corrosion occurring. The gouging is pretty serious from our rough data so far. It's somewhere between 15% of a thickness and about 3/4 of the thickness of the canister. So it's almost like analyzing a can opener, ripping the whole thing open.
Frankly, once they get loaded, I don't see them ever taking those canisters out of there. Realistically, they're not going to move them out. So those permits will be extended, the operational period will be extended repeatedly, and you will have a de facto kind of burial site.
The trouble is, if you bury it underground and abandon it, then by the time you realize you've got a problem, it's too late to do anything about it.
So then what do you do with it? Come up with a scientifically least bad permanent solution. Stop making any more of this stuff. Beg forgiveness for the environmental sin we did. And in the interim at San Onofre, don't say, I just want out of here. I don't care where. I don't care who gets hurt. Do something that is the most ethical you can do. And I think in these terms that is to move it to a higher location, away from the ocean, where it can be better protected, and try to learn from this horrible mistake we made.
The Swiss have provided us with an excellent example of what we should do with our nuclear waste in the interim, because there's nowhere to take it permanently. Where we have a robust building, we have a hot cell.
Hot cell is what they call a dry fuel handling facility. It's a lead-lined concrete building filled with helium so nothing explodes, that you robotically can move the fuel from one container to another.
So getting a hot cell like what they've done in Switzerland is key as a first step. The situation at San Onofre is not unique. It's a problem that goes across the country. If these canisters age to the point where they begin to fail, they're going to fail everywhere. It's going to be at least several decades when the waste has to remain here because it's not even safe to transport in its current condition. We know ocean levels are rising, tsunamis are inevitable.
Swiss solution for temporary storage is thick wall casks fully monitored to prevent radioactive releases, stored in buildings for environmental and security protection, hot cell facility so they can maintain and continued stewardship from generation to generation. That's the best we have right now.
We know how to package it. We know how to package it well enough to keep it out of the environment. We know how to improve the packaging. In fact, we can do this from generation to generation. The next generation can do a better job than we did, and the generation after that can do a still better job. And this is what we call rolling stewardship. It's retrievable, it's monitored, and you can perfect it, you can improve it. The whole idea here is to always improve the storage from generation to generation, not just to watch the storage that exists and allow it to crumble before your eyes, but a perpetual system of improvement.
We need to protect everything from this nuclear waste for many, many decades and give the future generations a chance to find that solution. We have to expect might take several decades, maybe a century, who knows? So we may just have to continue rolling stewardship and improving, repairing, replacing as we go. And in the meantime, we're protecting future generations, not just ourselves. San Onofre syndrome can be fixed, but we have to fix it here first.